marketing is going to become a much more science-driven activity. And it's already true that our ability to collect data has far outstripped our ability to make sense of it. And this is true everywhere. It's true in the military, it's true of surveillance, it's true of it's true of e-commerce, it's going to be true of consumer packaged goods. You really need a greatly enhanced analytics component, if not an active research component, to figure out what all this data means for your business. But the other thing is the kinds of questions that we can ask of it are much more sophisticated and really sort of require a whole new science. The study of social networks has long been something that sociologists and other social scientists have thought was important, but there really wasn't much we could do because much of the data, the sort of vast body of data was simply not available to us. And yet now we actually have full-blown web services that provide exactly that kind of data. So there's a sort of whole range of questions that open up once you not only know things about individuals, but you also know things about how individuals are connected and how those interactions impact their behavior or some sort of outcome, whether it's the diffusion of information or whether it's influence, or whether it's the ties themselves can be informative. In the web world, we're increasingly instrumenting everything that we can measure, browsing behavior, search behavior, click-throughs, and so on. Once you can pair that up with shoppers clubs or credit cards or whatever, you have a very sort of detailed picture emerging of where is a particular person and what are they doing and what were they searching for before they did that, and what websites are they browsing. Whether you actually want any of this to happen or not from a privacy perspective is a completely legitimate and very good question, but technologically it's increasingly moving in that direction. We have to start suspecting our intuition. Whatever hypothesis you have, whatever intuition you have, however self-evident it may seem, you test it against the data, and bottom line is it's wrong, like every time. So, this is, I think, the sort of shock that the marketing world is about to encounter, is that, we sort of have these, spontaneous intuitions about why people do what they do and how to make them do things other than what they're currently doing, whether that's engaging with our brand or buying our product or evangelizing our product to other people. And we can tell ourselves these plausible stories about how they're going to behave if we do X, Y, and Z. But then when you actually get the data, they don't do that, right? And they don't do anything crazy. They just do something different from what you expect. When we think about word of mouth influence, we imagine information or influence propagating through a network sort of in the manner of an infectious disease, right? That we talk about viral videos, we talk about viral media, we really think that it's spreading. What we find is that almost nothing spreads. And we find that the vast majority of all adoptions happen within just 1 degree of the seed. So, this is sort of shocking to people who study diffusion and who think about diffusion, and it's kind of shocking to viral marketers because it completely changes your sort of premise of how things work in the social world. And it also suggests that when we do see big events, things that we call viral, something other than word of mouth, peer-to-peer diffusion is happening, right? And actually it's sort of clear that this is true, right? If we think about sort of the famous stories, everything from the recent viral video of the little baby penguin that suddenly got 100 million views, to the subservient chicken campaign, which was, I think, one of the first to be labeled a viral campaign. All of these benefited from tremendous mass media coverage. Once you get your so-called viral video on the front page of Yahoo, 100 million people see that. So this is not viral anymore. This is mass media. once you accept that your intuition for how people behave, however compelling it might seem, is just inherently flawed, right? Inherently limited, then you really have to sort of go to a different model of learning about the world, right? Then everything becomes data-driven, and it becomes data-driven in a very sort of real-time reactive way, right? So, the classic example of this, in the web industry is what we call bucket testing, right? Where you say, well, I don't know what to put on the front page of Yahoo. I have some very good editors who have plenty of ideas, and they can generate a pool of candidates. But if we want to optimize that, we actually have to go and show these different combinations of articles to, again, these small buckets of people, and within a few minutes, we've got 1 million clicks that we can use to tell us which ones are getting clicked on more. This kind of measure and react strategy, as I call it, is something that is very, it's particularly powerful on the web because the numbers are very large, because the costs of generating multiple versions are very low. But in principle, this is something that could be done in the offline world as well, right? And we see this in the fashion industry with Zara. You see this in the casino industry with Harrah's. Grasping the limits of your intuition is not the same thing as saying the world is completely unpredictable. There are some things that we can predict, and there are other things that we cannot predict, and we need to be able to tell the difference between these two. And advertisers create these elaborate stories about representative consumers, and then they build a whole campaign around sort of selling to this actual person that they've created in their minds. And so that, to me, is deeply flawed, because what we've learned from many, many years of psychological research, not to mention what we should have learned from actual business experience, is that if any of these assumed factors that you're including in your simulation are wrong, then the person may do something completely different. If you have data on the billions of mouse clicks per day of hundreds of millions of users, there are empirical regularities. They can be modeled. They can be predicted. They can't be predicted deterministically. They can't be predicted with 100% accuracy, but that's not the point. The point is that you can do better than guessing. Our enthusiasm for making predictions is matched only by our reluctance to be held accountable for them, right? That nobody ever keeps track of the predictions that they make. By all means, make predictions, but record them, keep track of them, and there's a tremendous amount that can be learned, both about your own ability and about your organization's collective ability to predict things simply by measuring your track record over time. This is something that is difficult to do, but it could be done, and I think it would have a transformative effect on the way people think about their ability to predict and plan.